Yes, it's John G. Sutton. Tales from the jails. I talked today about restraints used in prison. You know, when they physically prevent a prisoner from moving or lock them up in devices that are there to restrict their arms and their ability to attack staff, really, or other inmates, or themselves. Because at times inmates do hurt themselves. And there is one YouTube site out there that I've had a look at today. It's called the Prisons Solidarity Network. And I'm going to put a link, to this network, to their... they've got a YouTube channel out there. I'm going to put a link to it. And the one I want you to look at, if you will, is A World in Action thing from, it's about a long time ago, 1991. It's called The Hate Factories, in which they're discussing the restraints that were used on prisoners in the British prison system. And I'm in it, discussing the way that prisoners were treated at Strangeways. And one particular implement that they used at Strangeways was a belt. It was like the belt was about 6 inches wide, 7 inches, 8 inches wide, and it had at the front of it, it had like straps with handcuffs, so you could only move your hand about 4 or 5 inches. You couldn't lift your hand up. You were fastened tightly to the belt, and that's what the inmates had on. They would sometimes have strengthened clothing, so they couldn't rip that up, but they were shorts and like a t-shirt. But most often it was the inmates were completely naked, apart from the belt with the iron handcuffs, and they would be laid in a stripped cell. Now, a stripped cell consists of there's nothing in there. It's completely stripped out, and all that's in there is a plastic pot. And sometimes you'll have a very strong blanket. That's a blanket that's sewn all in many different ways, so it can't be ripped, because they fear that if inmates can do that, they might hang themselves from the bars or something like that. So that was one method. And the thing was, when inmates were fastened into this belt, the regulations stipulated that when they were being fed, they put the food down next to them, and you were supposed to unlock one of their hands to allow them to eat. And in my experience, I didn't see any staff do that. They were supposed to do it, and there was no point complaining, because next thing you know, you try and one on for size yourself. Anyway, that's what they did with that particular method. Another method of restraining prisoners was, of course, chlorpromazine or Largactil, which they'd always done, and the instructions of a medical doctor, a certified doctor. As a hospital officer, I couldn't get it into my head that this particular inmate needed the liquid Cosh, which they called it the liquid Cosh. I couldn't do that. No, I had to see a doctor, or if an inmate was particularly violent, then I'd ring up a doctor, and the doctor would advise me what medication to give the individual. Believe this or not, very, very often the doctors would say, what would you give him, Mr. Sutton? I would very often say, I think if we give him an injection of chlorpromazine, that will quieten him down for a day or two, and we'll put him into one of the secure cells, so that he's safe. Very good, do that. So I would write it up, but I would always have a member of the security staff, when they connected me, listen in to the telephone call, and I'd say, will you please note that I have been instructed to inject, and I'd give them the inmate's name with chlorpromazine. So that they had it down on because what happened was, at Liverpool, it happened actually, not at Strangeways, at Walton Jail. One particular inmate, the hospital officer rang the doctor. Doctor said, "Oh, give him an injection with this, that, and the other." Anyway, the hospital officer went in, gave him the injection. Next morning, he was in his cell dead. And when the doctor came in on duty and was told that this inmate was dead, he denied that he had instructed the hospital officer to inject him. Denied it. So the hospital officer was up the creek without a paddle. It was his word against the doctor's. So whenever I rang a doctor, I didn't ring him direct. I always got the security unit to ring the doctor, transfer the call to me and listen in and make a note of what the doctor told me to do so that I had a witness, you see. But anyway, that was one method of restraining people, the secure belt. The other one, of course, was chlorpromazine, and where they'd be taken into a secure unit cell, which is a padded cell, have all the clothes taken off them, get a couple of strong boys to hold them down, and inject them into the upper outer quadrant of the right buttock. And that usually knocked them out for a couple of days. Other methods of restraint included just basically removing everything from a cell, but always rip all the clothes off, you see. Because if they get the clothes, they could tear them into shreds and make a rope. And people get into distraught situations like that. And the one thing you don't want to do is to enable somebody who's distressed to terminate themselves. So a lot of the restraints were not to entertain the staff, which is contrary to the supposition of many people. And I posted up a notification on the Prisoners Solidarity Network site, and it was immediately removed. You know, I don't know why. Perhaps it's because I'm an ex-jailer. You know, they thought that this wasn't appropriate to allow an ex-prison officer, who was obviously the enemy, to make any comments. Although, whilst during my time in the prisons, I applied myself to ameliorating the position of the prisoners in my charge. I did my best to do it. And all the inmates that I knew certainly wouldn't be able to point the finger and say, you know, what a bastard he was, he didn't do anything to do anybody. I did. I'm on record. I got into severe problems for doing it. But it was either that or condone the abuse. And I personally don't. Yeah, and so there you are. Have a look below. You'll see the link to the Prisoners Solidarity Network site. And on there, they've got a link to the World in Action documentary called The Hate Factories. And in there, I think it's quite early on, about less than a minute, about 50 seconds, you'll see the start of an interview with me. I do about 3 or 4 little comments about what was happening in the prisons when I was there. And I wrote a song, actually, because I was absolutely appalled with the way things are going in America, you know, with all the guns and going to schools and shooting people, and it's madness. Do you know, in America, there's more shootings in Chicago in 1 year, than there has been in the United Kingdom in 100 years. I mean, how mad is that? Yeah, seriously. And then they got all the shootings at the schools at Sandy Hook when 17 children shot. And that idiot on, Prison Planet, Jones his name is, saying it was a joke. He got sued. I think it's costing him millions of pounds now for defaming the parents, claiming that they were stage actors or something. You don't do that, do you? I mean, obviously, they wouldn't fabricate something like that. Absolutely horrible. But the gun culture in America is an absolute disgrace. Anyway, I wrote a song about it, satirising the gun culture in America, and it's called Got a New Gun for Christmas. I'm going to sing it to you, so better ring the ding dong, eh? They are. You got that? It's a song dinger. Song coming up, Abandoned Ship or Abandon Hope. One way or the other, you're going to get it. Here we go. Got a New Gun for Christmas. Song by John G. Sutton. I'm gonna really rip this apart, believe me. Right, here we go. I've got no music, so I'll just have to go with it, you know. Now, people, here's a happy story. God bless you, of course it's true. About my favourite Christmas present. There's a message here for you. Oh, I got a new gun for Christmas. I loaded up on the day. It took 30 rounds of ammo. Then I blew old Santa away. You see, it was just on midnight. Daddy Hank took me up in bed. A guy with a beard went ho, 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 so I shot the silly bastard dead. Oh, I got a new gun for Christmas. AK-47, Daddy said. I oiled it and kissed it, you betcha. Then I popped Santa Claus in the head. What kind of a weirdo goes creeping round little boys sleeping? I mean, why? Won't do it no more, he's flat on the floor. I put 2 rounds in his eye. Oh, I got a new gun for Christmas. Got that was a few years ago. So kids, if you're waiting for Santa, he's sure to be a no-show. Why don't you get a new gun for Christmas? Tell Mummy and Daddy to buy, so the bastards that dare to annoy you can join Santa Claus. They can die. Oh, I got a new gun for Christmas. I loaded it up on the day. It took 30 rounds of ammo. Then I blew old Santa away. There you go. My satirical look at the gun culture of the United States of America. That's my tales for the jails today. Do have a look at that site. I'm going to put the link below.